The last witness has testified and lawyers presented closing arguments today in the OpenAI trial, pitting Elon Musk against Sam Altman. Musk sued OpenAI and Altman, alleging they betrayed the company's original nonprofit mission by becoming a for-profit entity. And this verdict could have major implications on OpenAI's future and, frankly, the global AI race. I want to bring in CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson, who has been following this trial very, very closely. Jessica, lawyers had one last chance to make their cases in closing arguments today. What did each side focus on?
In a way, similar things. I think credibility is the whole ball game when it comes to this particular case. Obviously, Musk is arguing here that Sam Altman made an enforceable promise to him about OpenAI, that they didn't just have a aspirational conversation about what they wanted OpenAI to be, but in fact that they had a conversation that this was going to be a nonprofit, it was going to have a specific mission, and that in the course of those conversations, they created an agreement that gave rise to legal duties that could be breached. Sam Altman is basically saying, you can't believe this guy. This is somebody who, even after we started a for-profit, tried to take us over. This is essentially bitter grapes because he wasn't able to take over OpenAI. He created his own AI company instead. And this is about him not being able to get control of a company he wanted to control. So obviously, in terms of the legal issues, they're arguing very different things. But I think at the end, they're both saying, you can't believe that person.
Yeah, it's really interesting to have watched this trial on a daily basis, Jessica. And I want to note, this is a jury trial. And it seemed like each day, I mean, there were days that went on, Jessica, where it seemed like the two sides were frankly competing over which defendant was a bigger jerk. And I'm curious if that really is going to play into the result of this trial.
So I think that sometimes, I mean, that's a great way of putting it. Sometimes it doesn't, right? There are some cases where it's kind of clear, frankly, I think, where the facts and the law bring you. And maybe you don't really like the person who's going to win, but so it goes. In this particular case, I think because so much of it comes down to this: who do you believe? What do you believe was actually discussed? And what do you believe was promised versus what was said is like, this is what we're going to try and do. I think that the jury's views of Elon Musk and Sam Altman could potentially make a difference here. Again, unlike some other cases where maybe the likability doesn't and the credibility doesn't come into play as much.
Yeah, it was really hard to have empathy for either of these gentlemen during this trial. Now, if Elon Musk wins, what are the ramifications to OpenAI in the wider AI race?
So that potentially huge. If Elon Musk wins, I mean, he's essentially asking for OpenAI to be restructured, and that would be hugely significant in ways that I frankly can't even begin to detail in terms of how you would try and break it up and put it back together. Also, of course, Elon Musk is asking for an enormous amount of money. So in terms of the repercussions, I would say for OpenAI, significant. In terms of AI companies in general, this case is not about whether, AI can continue and these companies can continue to innovate and what regulations will be on them. This is a very specific conversation between Sam Altman and Elon Musk, whether or not they created this essentially charitable trust that was breached. And it doesn't have implications, I would argue, therefore, for AI writ large.
And Jessica, we're also waiting for the Supreme Court to decide how it wants to handle the abortion drug mifepristone, that combination. What can you tell us?
So what the court is really going to do is to, I think, figure out what rule is going to be in place while this case continues. And specifically, there was a decision by a circuit court last week that said, we want to pause that rule that allows women to be able to obtain mifepristone through telehealth appointments and then through the mail. So the big question for the court, I think, will be, does that pause stay in place while this case plays out? The second question will be, does the Supreme Court say, okay, we're going to hear this case on an expedited basis, or will they essentially send it back to the lower courts and say, let this keep playing out?
Jessica Levinson, thanks so much.